1, 2, 3. One, two, three. One, two, three. How are ya? How are ya?
First thing, I'm Bert Meyer. I'm the chairman of the City of Reading Planning Commission. And for all of you out there in the public, I know you're really looking forward to this. First thing, I'm Bert Meyer. I'm the chairman of the City of Reading Planning Commission. And for all of you out there in the public, I know you're really looking forward to this.
Here. And Chairman Meyer.
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
You got it. Has everyone had an opportunity to read the minutes?
Here. And Chairman Meyer.
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
You got it. Has everyone had an opportunity to read the minutes?
Here. And Chairman Meyer.
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
You got it. Has everyone had an opportunity to read the minutes?
Why can't we do this in June or July? And really the issue is, well, the first issue is public safety, right? And so
Has everyone had an opportunity to read the minutes?
Why can't we do this in June or July? And really the issue is, well, the first issue is public safety, right? And so timing issue is important. Like I said, I've asked the same question, why can't we do this in June? And of course, the answer is because we simply have no confidence. Timing issue is important. Like I said, I've asked the same question, why can't we do this in June? And of course, the answer is because we simply have no confidence. Timing issue is important. Like I said, I've asked the same question, why can't we do this in June? And of course, the answer is because we simply have no confidence. We have to move forward. Now, for this particular meeting tonight, with regard to the Costco item, the Planning Commission's role here, the answer is because we simply have no confidence. We have to move forward. Now, for this particular meeting tonight, with regard to the Costco item, the Planning Commission's role here is we simply have no confidence. We have to move forward. Now, for this particular meeting tonight, with regard to the Costco item, the Planning Commission's role here is we simply have no, all the way up until the time that the chair of this commission says we're not receiving any more comments. And you would send that email to plan regard to the Costco item. The Planning Commission's role here, all the way up until the time that the chair of this commission says we're not receiving any more comments. And you would send that email to plan item. The Planning Commission's role here, all the way up until the time that the chair of this commission says we're not receiving any more comments. And you would send that email to plan item. Okay, each item, the chair is going to open that item. So, for example, with Costco, he's going to say we're going to open up the Costco item. Just like we always do, staff is going to give a presentation on comments, and you would send that email to planning. Okay, each item, the chair is going to open that item. So, for example, with Costco, he's going to say, we're going to open up the Costco item. Just like we always do, staff is going to give a presentation on that. Being public comment. And then the chair will recess to allow all the commissioners to read the comments that have come in during that time. Being public comment. And then the chair will recess to allow all the commissioners to read the comments that have come in during that time. Being public comment. And then the chair will recess to allow all the commissioners to read the comments that have come in during that time. This item would then come back for commission consideration. At that time, just like any other time we do something like this, the commissioners may have questions of staff. To allow all the commissioners to read the comments that have come in during that time. This item would then come back for commission consideration. At that time, just like any other time we do something like this, the commissioners may have questions of staff. The comments that have come in during that time. This item would then come back for commission consideration. At that time, just like any other time we do something like this, the commissioners may have questions of staff. The comments we will tender to Planning Manager Lily Toy, and if you're live streaming this, you should be able to see this screen, and she's going to walk you through how you can use our software. When we do something like this, the commissioners may have questions of staff. We will tender to Planning Manager Lily Toy, and if you're live streaming this, you should be able to see this screen, and she's going to walk you through how you can use our software. Like this, the commissioners may have questions of staff. We will tender to Planning Manager Lily Toy, and if you're live streaming this, you should be able to see this screen, and she's going to walk you through how you can use our software. Like this, the commissioners may have questions.
Page there, right at that red arrow, and it will click you to the next page here, and under online, click on this link.
In this, you should be able to see this screen, and she's going to walk you through how you can use our software.
Page there, right at that red arrow, and it will click you to the next page here, and under online, click on this link.
Screen, and she's going to walk you through how you can use our software.
Page there, right at that red arrow, and it will click you to the next page here, and under online, click on this link.
Screen, and she's going to walk you through
Gov software, and it is live. You are allowed to submit a comment until the item is closed for public hearing, as Barry DeWalt has mentioned. Page here, and under online, click on this link. Gov software, and it is live. You are allowed to submit a comment until the item is closed for public hearing, as Barry DeWalt has mentioned.
I'll second that.
Leon.
I think that's Michelle. Okay.
Correct.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'll second that.
Leon.
I think that's Michelle. Okay.
Correct.
All in favor say aye.
I'll second that.
Leon.
I think that's Michelle. Okay.
Correct.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Commissioner St. Clair
Aye.
and Chairman Meyer.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Correct.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Commissioner St. Clair
Aye.
and Chairman Meyer.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Commissioner St. Clair
Aye.
and Chairman Meyer.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor.
Commissioner Middleton, are you there?
This is Commissioner Middleton. I will recuse from items of Bel Air Estates Extension and cottages at Bel Air.
Okay.
Commissioner Middleton, are you there?
This is Commissioner Middleton. I will recuse from items of Bel Air Estates Extension and cottages at Bel Air.
Himself from are over, and he'll be back with us. So with that, let's go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman Meyer and members of the Planning Commission. I'm Zach Bonin with the City of Reading Planning Department.
Himself from are over, and he'll be back with us. So with that, let's go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman Meyer and members of the Planning Commission. I'm Zach Bonin with the City of Reading Planning Department. Here you can see the location is on Quartz Hill Road on the northwest side of Reading. And just of note, in Unit 1 on the northerly side, there was two phases. Here you can see the location is on Quartz Hill Road on the northwest side of Reading. And just of note, in Unit 1 on the northerly side, there was two phases.
Each one of the commissioners have to say anything at all?
No, they don't. It's just like a regular meeting in that regard. So you've prompted the commissioners, and if there are no questions, then what we would do now is you would just call it and say, okay, members of the public, you have 3 minutes to submit comments, and then we'll return.
Okay. Well, I guess that you can speak those words just for me. Thank you. So now what happens, Lily, is somebody either sends you an email or calls or sends it to the web page if they have any questions?
That's correct. So they can submit online, or they could send us an email as directed.
Okay. So how are you going to know?
So we will receive it. We'll be monitoring the website. So we will know. I'll be monitoring the website, and Larry's monitoring the emails. And so
So-
after the 3 minutes are up, we will report to you whether comments were received.
Who's got a stopwatch?
Erica does.
Oh, you got it. Okay, cool.
So all you have to do is call it, and we'll get that watch going.
Okay. I'll open the public hearing. At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. You have 3 minutes to make your comments to Larry or Lily. And Erica's got the time. So what do you want to talk about for the next 3 minutes? Barry, you can fill a void in anything, can't you?
My wife says I'm not funny, so it's probably best that I don't talk.
Bert,
Is that Commissioner St. Clair?
is it my equipment, or is there a time delay between the audio that's coming over the telephone and the audio that's on the video?
Not your imagination. It is a 5-second delay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Something else? I should have brought a deck of cards. I should have brought a deck of cards.
Members of the public have approximately 1 minute to submit comment. And that's time.
At this time, I'd like to close the public hearing. Did we get any comments from the public?
I have received one online public comment. Very simple. I think you should approve this request.
Great. So how does that becomes public record now? Okay? Okay.
I'd like to make one additional comment. I did receive a contact from a neighbor who actually lives in the subdivision. He was concerned about the original notice, but after speaking with him, he realized it was just an extension of the original map, so he withdrew his comments.
Are there any other commissioner comments? Seeing none, at this time, I'd like to make a vote.
Mr. Chairman, I will, this is Michelle, and I will go ahead and make a motion to approve the 3-year extension request for tentative subdivision map S-1-01. That's Bel Air Subdivision Unit 1.
Who would like to make a second?
This is Commissioner Benner. I'll second that motion.
Very good. All in favor say aye. Individually?
Commissioner Benner?
Aye.
Commissioner Coughlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Godert?
Aye.
Commissioner Middleton is recusing himself. Commissioner Minor?
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner St. Clair?
Aye.
Chairman Meyer?
Aye.
Thank-
Okay. One item down. Now, this dog needs to learn some new tricks, so keep reminding me, please. Okay. What's next, Zach?
All right, the next subdivision is the cottages at Bel Air Estates, and this is adjacent to the previous subdivision on Quartz Hill Road. It's subdivision S21-04, and the original application was approved on March 14, 2006, and this also is the final 3-year map extension for the request. In this case, this is a little different. It's a little bit higher density plan development. It's not a single family type subdivision. It's on 24 acres. There are some single family smaller acre lots, and then there's 15 acres dedicated to open space. And the typical lot size is about 4,500 square feet, with lot width around 50 foot. And the homes will be developed with a 5-foot side yard setbacks with 12-foot front yard setbacks. So it's a much smaller lot configuration. As you can see here, the three subdivisions are fronting on Quartz Hill Road. And again, that concludes my presentation. It's a 3-year map extension, put it to 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bonner. Any commissioner comments on this item? At this time, I'd like to open up the public hearing. Do we do another 3 minutes? Okey doke. I'd like to make a comment that the same the same line is open for people to call in. It's the exact same number that you already gave them, as far as...
Are
Right.
you referring to when we have applicants calling in?
No, what I mean is, you had they can call in on a web page. So
Yes.
it's the same one.
Yeah, the website.
Just
That's correct.
confirming to the public to know that they're using the same numbers as the last ones.
Yes, same website.
Okay.
Members of the public, you have approximately 1 minute to submit comment. And that's time.
At this point, I'd like to close the public hearing. Do we have any responses?
None submitted online.
Seeing none, we do a roll call vote. Would someone like to make a motion?
Mr. Meyer, I will make the motion. This is Michelle, and I would like to move that the Planning Commission approve the 3-year extension request for tentative subdivision map S-21-04, and that's the cottages at Bel Air subdivision.
I'll second it.
Is that Commissioner St. Clair second?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, for the roll call vote, Commissioner Benner?
Yes.
Commissioner Coughlin?
Approved.
Yes.
Commissioner Godert?
Yes.
Commissioner Middleton has recused himself. Commissioner Minor?
Yes, on a minor.
Yes.
Minor. Commissioner St. Clair?
Yes.
And Chairman Meyer.
Chairman.
Thank you.
Yes.
Zach, before you proceed, I just want to query Commissioner Middleton. Are you back on with us, Commissioner Middleton?
I am indeed.
Okay, great.
Through the chair, may I also remind folks that with these virtual meeting, we have also offered the ability for our applicants to take the opportunity to call in and listen and be available for questions if commissioners are asking any questions of them. So with this item on the Bottle Brush subdivision, we do have some applicants that have taken this opportunity. So I'd like Erica to roll call those and confirm that they are available online.
Mr. Brian Dessler?
Here.
Mr. Hanson? No, Mr. Hanson. And Mike Dormer, the engineer of record?
Yeah, here.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Meyer, we're ready.
Mr. Bonner?
All right. This is the Bottle Brush subdivision, S2405. It's another extension of time. It's also the last extension of time request for this subdivision. It was originally approved on March 4th, 2007. Just real brief to note on all these. The reason why you're seeing these older subdivisions still working through the system is there was 9 years of legislative extensions that was granted by the state from 2008 and through later this decade. So they are still kind of in action, and that's why you're seeing these last extensions kind of reaching the end of their useful life of these subdivisions. So this subdivision is located off the Pepper Tree subdivision area, adjacent to Interstate 5, off Bottle Brush Drive, and it is on 8.95 acres. They're proposing to have a tentative map for 28 single-family residential lots, and the density is 3.1 units per acre, with lots ranging from 7,300 square feet to 18,000 square feet. And there's the subdivision map there. It's got a couple extra little enhancement features, and the subdivision then would be extended through 2023 as the rest of them. So that concludes the Bottle Brush subdivision. Thank you.
Any commissioner comments for Mr. Bonner? Seeing none at this point, I'd like to open up the public hearing. And we'll do 3 minutes. I'm getting better at it. I'm on a roll.
Members of the public, you have approximately 1 minute to submit comment. And that's the end of the 3-minute comment period.
At this point, I'd like to close the public hearing. We have some speakers.
We did not receive any online comments.
Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve a 3-year extension on Bottle Brush subdivision, map S-24-5.
Second by Commissioner Middleton.
So we take an individual vote.
Commissioner Benner?
Yes.
Commissioner Coughlin?
Yes.
Commissioner Godert?
Yes.
Commissioner Middleton?
Aye.
Commissioner Minor?
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair?
Yes.
And Chairman Meyer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. One more to go. Zach?
Okay, the last one, Stones Fair subdivision. This is in South Reading off of Rancho Road in Shasta View. And it's an extension of time as well. It's originally approved on March 8, 2008. And this one's a little bit different. I'll get to that in the extension of time, as it's only a 1-year additional extension. But the location map, I put up the overall Shastina Ranch subdivision map just to give you a better idea of where the subdivision is. It's in the middle, but on the north is Stone Creek, and on the south is Shastina Ranch, with Rancho Road bordering on the north and Airport bordering on the east side of this area. Stones Fair is pointed out right here. And this was approved in 2008 originally, but we just recently amended it in 2019. It's 51 acres for 118 single-family residential units, and it has a dedication of a 7-acre school and park site. And you may have seen out recently, they just recently paved Shasta View Drive south, and they're moving quite quickly to develop this subdivision. And there's the subdivision map as amended. And I just wanted to call out on this one. It's a little different. They received the original 3-year, their first 3-year extension, and then they had a 3-year extension due to some development agreements and off-site improvements, which is another way to get extensions in addition to the legislative extensions. So in the Subdivision Map Act, you're not supposed to exceed a total of 10 years. So that still leaves their second extension with 1-year extension. So this one is just giving the second extension with the additional 1 year. We're given that, even though that they have their map being recorded and they're doing off-site improvements, will also allow some additional with some agreements with the city, but we wanted to grant this last extension as they're moving forward. So that concludes my presentation on the Stones Fair subdivision. If any questions, I'm here.
Any questions from fellow commissioners? Seeing none, Erica, start the clock, please.
Mr. Meyer, I don't think that you officially opened the public hearing.
I didn't officially open the public hearing? I officially now open the public hearing. Do we have any comments? I officially close the public hearing. Not yet, you got 3 minutes. How long does this take anyhow? 3 minutes. Oh, gosh. You gotta have a little fun out here, Larry. I mean, really.
Members of the public, you have approximately 1 minute to submit comment. That's the end of the 3-minute comment period.
Now I can close the public hearing? Well, I'm going to close the public hearing. Did we get any comments from anybody?
No online comments have been submitted.
Would someone like to make a motion?
This is Luke Miner. I will make a motion that we move forward and approve the additional 3-year extension.
Okay, I need a second.
Commissioner Benner, I'll second.
Great.
Mr. Meyer, you kind of cut out. This is a 1-year extension.
Yes? Is it a 1 year, a 3-year and a 1 year? It's just a 1-year extension. 1 year. Not a 3. So do we amend the motion?
Apologies. I amend the motion to a 1-year extension.
Okey doke.
Commissioner Benner?
Commissioner Benner, I'll second.
Okay. Commissioner Benner?
I'll second.
Commissioner Coughlin?
Yes.
Commissioner Godert?
Aye.
Commissioner Middleton?
Aye.
Commissioner Miner?
Aye.
Commissioner St. Clair?
Yes.
And Chairman Meyer.
Yes. Okay. Next item on the agenda is something we don't see very often, but it's pretty neat. We're going to, the Northeast Trail, crossing trail, is going to have a brand new bridge built over Boulder Creek and then connect with the trail from Bethel. And I went in, I used to exercise at the gym every day, and since the gyms have all closed down, I've been walking different Reading trails every day. So yesterday I went over and walked this trail, and it was about 50 minutes, and it's an existing trail that is going to be improved. And I will tell you, because I walked the Sundell Bridge today, this is the first time I've ever been on a trail that I didn't see another person. Not one person walked that trail yesterday for an hour. So this is an unused trail that I think the improvements that are going to be made, it's going to be well done. And I also thought I'd let you know that at the end of the trail, as I turned around and came back, it said, Bethel Church property, no trespassing. So maybe we've got to work together with these guys a little bit, huh? Okay, at this point, we'd like the staff presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner Meyer and the Planning Commissioners. This is the use permit application by the Community Services Department for the Northeast Crossing Trail Project. They are calling it the NEXT project. It will connect the existing State Route 299 shared use pedestrian bicycle path from Highway 299 to the Highland Park subdivision through the city's abandoned wastewater treatment plant. Construction includes a 10-foot wide paved trail with pervious polymers crushed aggregate, a single-span pedestrian bridge over Boulder Creek, and amenities to include safety lighting, interpretive signs, bollards, and restorative planting, and possibly a drinking fountain. The location map you can see outlined in yellow, the city property, which is the abandoned wastewater treatment plant, and then the Caltrans right-of-way is identified up here in the corner in that southeast corner of the off-ramp for I-5 at 299. So the trail would connect from the existing trail along the Caltrans right-of-way. The existing bike path would connect at this point, come through the Caltrans right-of-way and into the city property. This is the crossing of Boulder Creek by the bridge span. It's actually an 80-foot long prefabricated span, so it will be outside of the actual creek bed, the abutments for that. And then it will connect with Mill Valley Parkway at the northern terminus there in the Highland Park subdivision. The property is zoned PF-FP. It's a public facilities district with the floodplain combining district. And so this exhibit represents the floodplain, both FEMA and the citywide master storm drain plan. So the property is significantly encumbered by the floodplain. And this shows the trail alignment through that area. So the project is specifically designed to reduce vehicle miles traveled and promote non-motorized commuting in the northeast quadrant of the city of Reading. It will connect the Hilltop area and the Highland Park subdivision with the State Route 299 path, as I said, and that will connect it to both the Bethel campus that's existing, the future, and Shasta Community College. It'll also provide some benefit for other communities in the northwest area of the city by providing that route of commuting to the Hilltop Drive and other goods and services in that area. The project is funded by the State of California Natural Resources Agency under their Urban Greening Grant Program and the California Climate Investments. In March of 2018, the City Council authorized the Community Services to make the application for the grant funding, and in March 2019, they, after the grant was approved, they approved the grant reimbursement agreement. That grant is approximately $1 million that would be reimbursed from the state. The project also includes another $250,000 from REU cap and trade money that's also earmarked for non-motorized trail transportation projects. So the PF district does allow for pedestrian, bike trails, recreational facilities, parks, ordinarily by site development permit, but in this case the zoning ordinance requires a use permit for encroachment in the floodplain, and so that's why this application is before the Planning Commission today for the trail design with the encroachment in the floodplain. While the trail and the concept for the trail has supported the City Council, after the grant approval, the design for the project started, and it was necessary to do that design work to identify the impacts to any natural resources and make recommendations for mitigations for the project. So today we're here to approve the project with the environmental document, which is supports the project based on the design concept that we're at this point. There were a number of studies that were done to support the design of the project, biological resource assessment, floodplain encroachment, cultural resources surveys, and the like. So, but for the most part, the design of the project is designed to avoid any resources. The biological assessment did identify the western pond turtle and special status bat species, potential habitat, so mitigation measures and best management practices require that there are surveys done prior to construction or the start of construction. Although, as I said, it's designed to avoid most resources, and only 6 trees have been identified for removal with the alignment of the trail. As far as the floodplain encroachment goes, it is supported by the design hydraulic study that was done for the project. That evaluated all the improvements for the trail project, including not only the trail and the bridge crossing, but the light standards for the safety lighting, the interpretive trail signs, and it concluded that it would not have an increase in the water surface elevation for the 100-year flood for Boulder Creek in this area. Staff prepared a mitigated negative declaration, and we sent that to the State Clearinghouse for distribution to responsible agencies and the other appropriate public agencies. We did receive 3 responses, one from the Regional Water Quality Control Board, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and one from a neighboring property owner. So in accordance with CEQA guidelines, we did prepare a response to comments, which is attached to the mitigated negative declaration. We were quite satisfied with the mitigation measures that we were prepared in the document, but we did take one comment from Fish and Wildlife and modified the mitigation measure under biological number 5, which was, and I noted that in the staff report, for the pre-construction surveys to be done 7 days as opposed to 14 days prior to construction. And so we reflected that in condition 5E. So that's already in there. The conditions of approval that were attached to the staff report are basically all of the mitigation measures that are required for the project and all of the best management practices, or the BMPs, that will be undertaken with construction. You should have received one letter Friday morning from a neighboring property owner with some objection to the project. And so I did talk to Travis Minnie. He's the project coordinator for the Community Services Department for this project, and he's aware of those type of concerns, although we are in the belief that the increased pedestrian and bicycle traffic in the area will hopefully deter homeless or camp or transient activity as opposed to exacerbate it. Travis is here in case you have any questions of him for the project. I know these public funding projects usually require some sort of public engagement process, and so he'd be familiar with what outreach was done, but I believe it was done with the project. So in conclusion, I would say that not only does the project have the support of the City Council, it's also identified in the city's active transportation plan. It's also in the Community Services Action Plan, and staff feels that it's clearly consistent with the general plan goals and policies in the transportation element and the recreation element. Keep working that mouse. So in conclusion, staff would recommend that the Planning Commission conduct the public hearing and adopt the mitigated negative declaration, including the attached mitigation monitoring program, and approve the use permit application upon a determination that the necessary findings for approval are in evidence, including that the project is consistent with the city's general plan, subject to the recommended draft conditions of approval.
Thank you for the presentation, Ms. Burks. I just wanted to point out that the bridge is 80 feet long, so it's not like a hop over the pond. It's a pretty good structure.
Mr. Meyer, I have a question, and either Travis or Linda could answer that for me. And Linda, this project is located largely on an existing access road. So I'm wondering if the bollards that will be placed at each end will be removable to allow for fire vehicle or ambulances, those kind of emergency vehicles.
Yes, Travis Minnie is saying that yes, they'll be removable for emergency access and so forth.
Any other questions? I have one question, or maybe it's a comment. I go to all these trails, and there's never enough parking. I want to make sure that there's enough parking spaces so somebody can get out of their car, park, and walk the trail and get back in their car. So I just don't know exactly, but I thought I'd mention that. Okay?
Commissioner Middleton, I had a question.
Just a second. At this time, I'd like to open up the public hearing. Yes, this question?
Yes, this is Commissioner Middleton. I had a question. In terms of I just had a question with regards to the zoning, and was a little unclear on this. The area is zoned public facilities, but we have a floodplain subzoning designation on that, and I'm just curious, and because I'm not in the room, I can ask this without seeing the planning manager cringe. When I ask this, the City of Reading GIS maps don't show that floodplain overlay. They show it in a couple places around the city, but not there specifically. But in terms of the floodplain overlay, is that specific? Just because it didn't show in our maps in our package, is that specific only to the floodplain area, or does that really encompass the entire parcels there that are zoned PFFP?
I'll answer that. The website that is external, that's available to the general public, has one big blob of where the floodplain actually sits on each parcel. It's basically just kind of a cartoon layer. It tells us as planners where that the parcel may be inundated by a 100-year floodplain. What you see on your packet is the exhibit that Linda has put up here. Is the shaded area are the parcels, and then you have the blue, which is the FEMA floodplain, and then we also have in purple the city's master stormwater floodplain, which is called the Montgomery-Watson. So it's inundated by both floodplains. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so the zoning, okay. Yes, that does. Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments, questions? Seeing none, I'd like to open up the public hearing. Would anyone like to speak on this matter? Did anyone send anything in? Okay. We got 3? Oh, we got 3 minutes again. Old dog, new tricks. Nice shirt. I had to decide what shirt I was going to wear today because I'm in front of the public, right? So this is probably as bright a shirt as I've got. I see it's brighter when I get it for you. I counted the amount of Hawaiian shirts I have. 446. And they're all in plastic bags. And they're all in categories. And they're all labeled where you bought them. All my pink flamingo shirts are together. All my cocktail shirts are together. All my female shirts are together. And I always put it, when I get it back from the cleaners, I put it on the right-hand side. So the left-hand side is always the one I wear next. My wife calls me meticulous, not me.
Members of the public have approximately 1 minute to respond. The 3-minute comment period has ended.
Now I get to close the public hearing? Okay.
Go ahead.
So we have some comments. Who would like to go first?
We have received 2 online public comments. Would you like me to read those?
Sure.
First comment, Mr. Meyer, I believe God is for you and this project. I love Bethel Church and the city. I hope that there will be great discussions in regards to this potential project. Second comment, I think this project should be approved.
Mr. Bobble, do you have anything?
Go ahead.
Yes, I emailed it to the commission. So we should take like a 2-minute recess to review the public comments that were brought in.
Let's take a 2-minute recess. You want me to come to you? You want me to? open up the public hearing again? Or do we have to wait? Okay. Eric, it came through to you. I got sent Tuesday, Larry. It is Tuesday. It has to, had to do with this COVID-19. Next project. No, that's strange.
Keep going. Scroll down. Down. No. There you go. Okay. Right there.
The other down, huh?
Yeah, right there.
All right, thank you. Ready? Okay. At this time, I'd like to open up the public hearing. We had a couple of questions, and Ms. Burke would like to respond to them.
I believe there was a question about whether, why the existing bike lanes on Churn Creek and Hilltop Drive couldn't be used as opposed to this facility or constructing this facility. And so I guess we would just comment that depending on where people live, work, go to school, this might be the most direct route. We also strive to have multiple options for pedestrians and bicyclists. And in fact, those bike lanes could be used, but they wouldn't provide direct access to that 299 trail, which this connects into. I would also note that separating pedestrian and bicycle facilities whenever possible is actually a goal in the city's general plan. So that's why we're supporting the project.
Okay, thank you. I would like to close the public hearing. Do we have any commissioner comments anyone would like to make? Questions for Ms. Burke? Seeing none, would someone like to make a motion?
Commissioner St. Clair, I move that we adopt the mitigated negative declaration and approve use permit application UP-2020-00350, subject to the recommended conditions of approval.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, take the roll call.
Commissioner Benner?
Yes.
Commissioner Coughlin?
Yes.
Commissioner Godert?
Yes.
Commissioner Middleton?
Aye.
Commissioner Minor?
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair?
Yes.
And Chairman Meyer.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And what have we been waiting for? Perhaps the next agenda item? I want to make a comment first. It's really nice that we as a city have a person on the bench like Kent Manuel coming out of retirement and he takes on a project of this magnitude. And I just wanted to say thank you, Kent. Always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, and the
Hold on,
audience
Ken.
out there.
Hold on, Ken.
Yep.
This is one of the projects where we have applicants to have called in, so I'd like Erica to go ahead and take roll as far as and confirm who is on the line.
Michael Okuma,
Here?
Dale Goldsmith. No Dale Goldsmith. Okay, Mike DeBroda,
Here.
Jeff Berberich. No. Russ Wenham
Here.
and Mark Teague. Mark Teague? Okay, no Mark Teague.
There's a delay between the two, so I apologize.
Okay, gotcha, thank you.
This is Commissioner Middleton. At this time, prior to the commencement of the presentation, I do have to recuse due to a financial conflict of interest.
So noted.
Hi, it's Dale Goldsmith. I'm here. Sorry, I had trouble calling in.
So this is the Costco. This is 25 acres, 152,000 square foot discount fuel center, 62,000 square feet of complementary retail and service. And it's in a couple of parts. So Kent, would you like to start off, please?
Sure, I will be happy to do that. Thank you once again. You know, this is the fourth public hearing the Planning Commission has had on this particular item from its very start back in 2017.
Excuse me for
Yes.
interrupting. I thought I'd let you guys in the public know this file is over 4 inches thick. It is a lot of reading and a lot of material to go over. Excuse me for interrupting.
That's fine. You know, I toyed a little bit with having an abbreviated presentation since we spent a good deal of time last July at your public hearing, but I thought since we will have perhaps some new people in the audience that I would kind of do a fairly lengthy presentation, but I'll try to keep it within bounds. Obviously, you can see the location here on the screen at the interchange of South Bonneview, and it obviously abuts Pacelli Lane. There are several applications involved with this project. It's a general plan amendment from shopping center and some residential to a regional commercial classification. There's a rezoning application that goes along with that from shopping center and RM10 multiple family to regional commercial, and there's also a specific plan that's been prepared for the project that would need to be adopted as this moves forward to council for this project to actually be built. You've all seen this site plan before on numerous occasions. It hasn't changed since July, but I just would note a few things about it in red on the left-hand side. It is a 25-acre site. As the chairman mentioned, 152,000 square foot discount warehouse, 30 fuel dispensers, though they will not all be built with the initial project, but up to 30 would be done. You'd have up to 62,000 square feet of restaurant and retail uses. Again, the site is bordered by Interstate 5 on the east, Pacelli Lane on the west, and South Bonneview on the south. The real purpose here is to conduct a public hearing on the final EIR. We're going to get into the project itself in the next agenda item, but you'll be making a recommendation whether the City Council should certify the final EIR for this project and whether they should adopt the findings of fact, statement of overriding considerations, and the mitigation monitoring program for this project. Always want to remind you as well as the public that the Commission's role is just advisory. The buck stops with the City Council. We anticipate that hearing would occur in May, but we will see what happens here at the end of this hearing. For the public's benefit, because I know the commissioners are well versed in this, but some EIR basics First of all, an EIR is simply an informational document. It does not pretend to make a decision whether a project should be approved. It's also focused on the physical changes to the environment, not what the budget is for police or fire, other things. It's physical changes. And also, it's very clear that the local jurisdictions or whoever is the lead agency for an EIR must simply demonstrate that they've done a good faith effort in identifying the impacts and mitigation measures. There is not a necessity for being perfect, though the courts seem to be tending a little bit more that way, but as lengthy of a process and big of a document as ours, it's very difficult to have everything perfect. While we do our best in every time to find mitigation measures that will work, sometimes that's not always possible, and when that's the case, the City Council must adopt a statement of overriding considerations, which we'll talk a little bit more in a bit. Lastly, it's important to also know that standards of significance are not always quantitative. You will find areas like aesthetic impacts. Doesn't tell you how many trees results in aesthetic impact that you're going to remove. It is a judgment call, and we'll talk about that as well. So what does, in a nutshell, this environmental document do? Tell the public. Most of the trees would be removed from the site. That's very clear. It's got a large development footprint with the buildings in the parking lots. We'll talk a little bit more and have some site plans of what's being done to save at least some of the trees. It acknowledges that the construction itself, with the use of all the diesel tractors and such, could result in some air quality impacts, so they're going to have to use specialized construction vehicles called Tier 3 and Tier 4. Most of the traffic mitigations are going to be constructed prior to project opening, which we're going to discuss in some detail, but some of them may lag behind a year, and some 2040 impacts would still have to be programmed into the city's TIF program, our Transportation Impact Fee program. We acknowledge there's some possibility of cultural disturbance on the site, even though experts in the field, archaeologists, have walked the site. Once you start digging things up to lay water lines, electric lines and such, there could be a possibility for disturbance, so there will be monitors on site from the local Native American community. There's some possibility of hazardous materials on site that has mitigation measures. Those of you who've been around town a long time probably know there was a gas station at one point in time at the southeast corner of this particular property. Also noted that there's some noise conditions. Often parking lot cleaning or tire centers and things can impact nearby residences. There are mitigation measures that you're well aware of in the document that deals with those. As far as physical impacts, there are just over 1/4 acre wetlands that would need to be filled. That would take permits from the Army Corps as well as Department of Fish and Wildlife. Off-site mitigation is likely to be required as part of that process. We also understand that best management practices are going to be needed to deal with water quality during construction. Again, that's one of the mitigation measures in the document. And lastly, has to deal with the birds, migratory birds, raptors, bats, may be in those woodlands. There are mitigation measures to ensure that pre-construction surveys are done if construction were to occur during nesting and roosting periods of time. So in a nutshell, those are how the mitigation measures or what they're formulated around. As I said before, we've had 4 public hearings on this particular project. The last one was in July, and in that meeting, shortly thereafter, when the City Council was considering the project, it was brought out that the air quality modeling was not quite right. It had an issue with double counting of pass-by trips, therefore not fully accounting for air quality. So as part of that December recirculation was the air quality section of the environmental impact report. it determined, frankly, that there was even less impacts than was originally noted. The new modeling utilized what's called MFAC 17, which is a three-year more fresh model of air quality analysis. It takes in new vehicle fleet mixes and emission levels and some other things, and actually two impacts that were determined to be significant and not avoidable are now found to be less than significant. The greenhouse gas chapter was modified just to modify essentially the tables to bring in the new modeling that was done for air quality. No additional impacts were identified. The transportation section was also recirculated. There were some comments made throughout the process that it was the traffic impact analysis report was difficult to grasp by some because it had an errata as well as the main document. That errata was incorporated into the full document to make things easier to read. There was also comments made that the potential casino was not properly accounted for regarding Saturday peak traffic. That was done. The bottom line is there were no additional impacts identified. There were many issues, as you know, as we've gone through this process, and I'm just going to take a couple minutes to go through and highlight them and let you know where we stand with those. First is aesthetics. A lot of folks look at 25 acres of oak woodlands and say, well, this is going to be a significant aesthetic impact if you remove those woodlands or don't have a relatively large buffer. What you saw at your last meeting, and I'm not going to bring those up for you at this meeting, is that this project is an urban project and it will be constructed similar to other urban projects along the freeway. We brought you pictures essentially of Discovery Village, of TJ Maxx, or you can look right across the freeway. This, as an urban project, will have the same aesthetics as other similar projects in the city. That said, the Planning Commission did require or ask that an additional setback be established along the Costco building. We'll talk a little bit about that. There were some comments about consistency with the tree management ordinance. I want to assure you that the process that the applicant has taken to assess the trees fully complies with our ordinance. Our ordinance recognizes that properties will be developed, and actually it is really built around identification of trees that truly are worthy of preservation. We did not really find any out there that meets the city's definition of a candidate tree. Again, we did also work with the applicant, and there's some additional project setbacks and things. Again, we'll talk about them, and here it is. What you see in green here are some efforts that the applicant has done to address trees early on. This area where the fuel center is stuff was pushed back from its original location in order to save trees at this location. A building here, about 8,000 square foot building, was removed earlier on in part to save existing trees at this location. And the applicant also sent their arborist and engineer out to look for possibility of saving trees again in those green blobs that you see when this project moves forward. A couple things to note about. Those of you who've been out there recently see that woodland is not in nearly the state that it was prior to the Snowmageddon in February of 2019. There's a lot of damage out there. We don't know if those trees that are in those locations are still viable. Also, until the final grading plan is done, we won't know if they'll be able to save all of those. But the intent was to do what they could to save trees in those locations. At your July meeting, recommendation of the commission was to push back the driveway, service driveway along the east boundary with Interstate 5, an additional 10 feet. That would be a 25-foot setback from the Caltrans right-of-way. So that's incorporated in the development standards that you have in your packet. The applicant has agreed to accommodate that, so that's not a recommendation you need to carry forward to the council. It will be a requirement of the project. Other issues having to deal with the project having to do with noise, parking lot sweeping, and delivery truck noise. One issue that came up particularly with truck noise was brought out by Mr. Dale LaForest. You've seen the responses to comments in your final EIR. It's determined that the noise from this project, particularly for delivery trucks, is not going to be significant, not trip any thresholds that the city has. So that is not an issue. As I said before, there are limitations on hours of parking lot sweeping as well as tire center operation. The last has to do with traffic, and we're going to walk through those in a little more detail. First of all, I want to let you know, of course, that the traffic was done with a state-of-the-art traffic model, that Caltrans was a big player in making sure that the basic assumptions were all agreed on between the city and that agency. Something that we don't typically do is utilize a specific user's trip generation data to help inform the model. Typically, we would just go to the ITE manual, Institute of Transportation Engineers, grab a generic big box warehouse number and plug it into the model. In this case, the applicant provided specific data for Western United States area Costco's, which has a trip generation rate higher than the ITE manual. So that was certainly a conservative number to use. The other thing we want to make sure, because it's come up in a few comments, is, did you tweak that model at all? And we certainly did. The underlying traffic model, has some basic assumptions and growth, but we went beyond that and added the phase 2 of Blue Shield, should that ever go. Churn Creek Marketplace, which, of course, as you know, is well underway on the east side of the freeway. Additional development, the South Bonneview Interchange, the proposed casino project, as I mentioned earlier, is included, and as well as residential and commercial development east of Interstate 5, including those projects that Planner Zach Bonin showed you earlier in the agenda. We also wanted to make sure we address neighborhood concerns that we heard up front. So we looked at what would future development of the multiple family piece, the piece that will remain vacant between the single family and this development, what impact could that potentially have on the Rivercrest Estates project? And we've determined that it would not have any impact. We also looked at Rivercrest Park impacts, just so that the neighborhood could be sure that that was not going to be affected. We also looked at potential cut-through traffic on Loma Vista Drive. So the bottom line, and what everybody wants to really know, is what is going to be in place prior, let's say prior to Costco opening. This illustrates a couple things. This particular slide, as we move through, along Bocelli Lane, you'll have curb guttered sidewalk, bike lanes, additional traffic lanes. They'll have to modify the signal that is currently at the Blue Shield location. They'll construct a center turn lane all the way from the project to Chinook Drive. Moving to the south end, there'll be a 2-lane roundabout at the intersection of Bocelli and South Bonneview. You'll be constructing additional infrastructure as noted here on South Bonneview, and you'll widen the southbound off-ramp to 2 right turn lanes, a through and a left lane. Again, all those will be in prior to project occupancy. As we mentioned earlier, Loma Vista Drive has received, and you've seen, I think, a lot of comments in your packets, worries of cut-through traffic. There will be traffic calming devices installed on Loma Vista Drive. There will also be a traffic signal constructed at Loma Vista. This will be in place prior to Costco being in operation. The conditions you see in your packet also include some improvements that are already constructed. These happen to be constructed with the Churn Creek Marketplace. That's the addition of the northbound on-ramp lanes that you see if you've been out in the last couple of months, as well as restriping the overcrossing to have a second left turn lane onto the freeway. Again, those have been completed. What will not be completed, probably our best guess is till about a year after occupancy, are improvements down in essentially the Churn Creek bottom area. As you well know, the Transportation Impact Fee or Traffic Impact Fee program calls for a roundabout at Rancho, Victor, and Churn Creek Road. You see in the big circle here. The design is already underway. That'll be constructed approximately a year after this project opens. Improvements to the corridor will be tied to the construction of that roundabout. Those also will be done about a year after project opening. Lastly, up here at Hartmeyer, you've heard testimony of that in the past and have numerous letters. This project will be paying its fair share towards improvements as defined in the traffic impact analysis report to that. Should note that Churn Creek Marketplace also is paying into those improvements. We do not know, because that facility is in the county, when that will be constructed. So I wanted to take just a couple minutes to talk about the range of comments that we have had, that we've received prior to this public hearing. The city attorney has already addressed the numerous comments we have had about the inappropriateness, in some people's opinion, of doing a virtual public hearing, so I won't address that now. We've had numerous comments that traffic impacts have not been sufficiently mitigated, that development will impact disaster emergency response along the corridor, and that the proposed casino may further exacerbate this traffic problem. You know, it's kind of interesting that we keep hearing about these potential problems when we went very much in depth with the traffic impact analysis, as I mentioned earlier, that indicates things can actually be mitigated and work within our thresholds. I understand there's going to be a huge difference out there, and people have a hard time grasping that things can actually work, but we believe they can. We have not seen anything submitted to us by way of a traffic study that would suggest what's being proposed will not work. We just hear that there is disbelief that the solutions can work. We'll also note, while we don't necessarily agree with everything that's within the Rancheria traffic impact analysis for the proposed casino, from what we have seen, the conclusions as far as the operation of this interchange are concerned are very similar to ours. So we've got two traffic studies that suggest this level of development can indeed work with the improvements that are proposed, and I just wanted to acknowledge that. We continue to have concerns expressed that the Bocelli Lane roundabout will not work for trucks, that there'll be a challenge for some drivers. I think you heard in the roll call vote that Russ Wenham is on the line. I'm sure if the commission has questions about the roundabout, he certainly is the expert. I am not, and you may want to direct questions to him. We've had comments that cars already back up on northbound Interstate 5 when they try to exit the South Bonneview Road. You probably know from your mitigation measures that you've looked through that there will be additional lane on that northbound off-ramp that should alleviate that issue. People have expressed that there will be difficulty in accessing Bocelli Lane from streets or from their houses. It's one reason why early on city staff agreed to construct the Loma Vista traffic signal up front. If you look at the traffic impact analysis report, it suggests it's really not needed until 2040, but to put it in now stops traffic, develops queue, so people can, breaks up the flow of traffic, so people can get in and out of the other roadways easier. Again, Loma Vista Drive will be further impacted. We've talked about improvements to that. Also, the oak and pine forest and wildlife benefits. We've talked about the impacts mitigation measures to the wildlife that will have to be done. I do want to say regarding mitigation to oak woodlands, the city, since its 1970 general plan and through this 2000 general plan that we're currently working on, we really have relied on the thousands and thousands of acres the city has put into open space that cannot be developed, about 8,000 acres within our general plan area, rather than going to find areas that trees can be planted. We're certainly relying on our open space resources. The FER, the comments made, the FER needs to address an aesthetic or visual barrier and buffer. We've already talked about that. And that the cumulative impacts on the undeveloped property north have not been adequately addressed. Say we've already addressed some traffic impacts, but I also want to, for the record, let you know that future development of that multiple family piece is not a CEQA issue relative to this project. We've gone over and above and looked at potential impacts, but that is certainly not required. It is not a foreseeable project right now. It will have to respond if someone were to come in after this project. They will have to do a CEQA analysis themselves and take into account the River Crossing Marketplace project. Lastly, that the Oasis Road alternative site is preferred and less costly. That's another theme that keeps coming up. So I'm almost to the end here. When we talk about alternatives, again, the Oasis Road alternative, yes, the environmental impact report has determined it to be the environmentally superior alternative, and I wanted to point out why. It's really because if you looked at the environmental impact report for that project, it does not have impacts that are significant and unavoidable. With this project, we have significant and unavoidable impacts related to the timing of improvements, as we talked about along the Churn Creek bottom, as well as not having 2040 improvements to the freeway currently programmed into the TIF. Other than that, I think these two alternatives are fairly similar. I also want to note, and I think it's very important, that the applicant does not have or site control or own that alternative site at Oasis. It is not the intent of CEQA to deny one location in an attempt to force a business or individual into another location. That is not appropriate at all. I will also say, just for your information, there are a lot of issues that don't seem to be addressed in the comments on Oasis Road, including about a mile of water line that would have to be extended, large widening of Oasis Road, relocation of both Twin View Boulevard intersections going to the east of the freeway, relocation of a gas transmission line. Things are not necessarily that simple. Just wanted to let the Commission understand that. With respect to the existing location and expansion there, it just does not meet project objectives, which among them are securing a freeway location and a size that will accommodate the fuel center as well as additional retail development, and the no project alternative, which means do not rezone anything, does not accomplish the objectives either. So with that, I'll give you the recommendation of staff. It's to adopt the resolution you have in your packet, finding that the final EIR adequately addresses the impacts of the project, and recommending that the City Council certify the final environmental impact report, adopt findings of fact, statement of overriding considerations, and the mitigation monitoring and reporting program. With that, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Manuel. Do any of our fellow commissioners have any questions for Mr. Manuel?
Mr. Meyer, I'd like to reserve my comments for the discussion period that will follow the public hearing, please.
I didn't hear.
Commissioner Godert said she will reserve her questions for after the public hearing.
Okay. Well, no questions. You know what comes next? Let's open up the public hearing, okay? So what I'd like to be able to do is this, we'll take some time, 3 minutes, start the process, and then when the 3 minutes is over, then what we'll do is we will sit and consider how best to approach moving forward. Because of the fact that if we get inundated with too many emails, et cetera, then what happens is we don't want to be reading every one of them. We'll probably just recess for some time, read them, and then when we're finished with that, I'll reopen the public hearing. Fair enough? Okay. I got some head shakes out of that, all right? 3 minutes.
Members of the public have approximately 1 minute to submit comment. And the 3-minute public comment period has ended.
Okay. So let's close the public hearing. And now what we get to do is we get to take a recess for around 15 minutes so we can review all of the different comments that our citizens provided. And we'll get back to you in about 15 minutes. Fair enough? Okay.
days you walk out and go, man, you know what? Boom. Then it's just like, yeah. I'm not getting all those adoring looks from constellators. Yeah, yeah.
Or the angry looks from all the members.
That's what it is. Facetious, yes, indeed.
You guys about ready to roll?
Yep.
Okay. See which mic gets back.
Heard one, yep.
Okay. At this point, I would like to have our fellow commissioners be able to ask any questions or comments about this project. Erica, each one, how do we want to do this? Whoever has a comment makes a comment? Okay, go ahead. Michelle, are you there?
Yes, I am there. I didn't know if she was going to do if Erica was going to do a roll call comment, but I'll be happy to plunge ahead here.
Okay.
I'm going to make a comment here, and actually it's a recommendation to my fellow commissioners that it may be more appropriate to item 4B4, our next agenda item, but I'm going to bring it up now as a placeholder, and it has to do with noise. And I'm sure when you were reading the comments, you saw Mr. LaForest's comments about delivery truck noise specifically. So in that regard, I'd like to see the Planning Commission take one more step to minimize noise impacts. And to that effect, I'm recommending that the Commission add a condition that prohibits delivery trucks from utilizing the north driveway between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. Instead, delivery trucks would be required to use the south driveway during that time period. And the 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. time frame I'm suggesting mirrors the time restrictions already in place for other noise mitigation measures. And I believe this step will solidify that delivery truck noise will not be significant for the adjacent neighborhood. So that's my recommendation, guys.
I have a question. Is that not in the document itself right now?
That is not. If you were to look at the, Section 5 of the final EIR, which is modifications to the EIR, it has a big, long discussion of noise. There was new noise analysis performed based on Mr. LaForce's earlier letter. It concluded that utilizing that northerly driveway for delivery trucks would not create a significant impact on the properties to the north based on the city's thresholds. That said, I did have some discussions with Commissioner Godert regarding this concern, even though they are not significant impacts, and relayed those concerns to the applicant, who indicated that it would be acceptable for them, and they can certainly weigh in if they feel the need to correct me, to not utilize that driveway during the period 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. I don't think it's necessary to suggest that it has to, all the truck traffic has to be that southerly driveway. Just stipulate perhaps that it's not utilizing the northerly driveway. And again, that would not be a CEQA issue, mitigation, or anything else. That would simply be a condition of approval.
And they've already approved of that thought?
My discussions earlier with them there was some agreement. I'm sure that because they are listening and available to take your questions, can weigh in if that's an issue.
So they would approve Michelle's recommendation. Is that what you're suggesting?
That's my understanding.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything to discuss?
Commissioner St. Clair, I would concur with what Michelle is saying, and if the Costco people don't have a problem with it, what would be our procedure? We would have to make that a condition of approval?
My recommendation is that you would include that in your motion and recommend that that condition to that effect be added to the development standards and submitted to the City Council.
I want to make a comment to my fellow commissioners. I was shocked at the amount of people that did not send any emails to us when we have 4. I was surprised. I thought that the public would have been much more demonstrative, not in favor of the project because of all the traffic and mitigation stuff, and yet nobody sent anything in.
Well, my observation, excuse me, is that a lot of people are like me. They're not that literate with the computer, and that's why we haven't got a lot of input.
Okay. Any other thoughts, comments? Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll go ahead and make that motion. But Kent, is this where we add the delivery truck hours to the developmental standards, or would that be the next item, item 4B4?
Yeah, that would be the next item when we actually address the project conditions.
Okay, very good. I will make the motion that the Planning Commission recommend to the City Council that it certify the final environmental impact report, adopt the mitigation monitoring, and adopt the findings of fact and statement of overriding consideration for this River Crossing Marketplace project.
St. Clair, second.
Okay. We take a roll call vote.
Commissioner Benner?
I'm getting better.
Yes, I'm in favor.
Commissioner Coughlin?
Yes.
Commissioner Godert?
Aye.
Commissioner Middleton has recused himself. Commissioner Minor?
Aye.
Commissioner St. Clair?
Yes.
And Chairman Meyer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, that was something else. Okay. Kent, you have one more to go?
Yes, soon as Mrs. Toy cues me up here, there we go. So I'm going to hopefully not be too redundant here because there are a lot of things that we've just talked about that apply also to the physical development of the site. I won't go over the location again, but the purpose, again, is to conduct a public hearing on the applications, adopt a resolution you have in your packet that recommends the City Council find the project consistent with the final environmental impact report and approve the applications as brought forth in the previous item. I won't talk about the site plan again. You're all familiar with it. If you have questions, we can always return back to this slide. I just wanted to get mostly for the public. Again, you've been through this before, but the site currently has a mix of uses on its zoning and general plan, about 15 acres of retail that have been, and multiple family. The rest of it has been in place since about 1982. That's a long time. The amendment would, if it's approved, would expand the commercial area by approximately 10 acres. The main reason why the regional commercial zoning and general plan is being sought is because the zoning code currently limits a single tenant use to 75,000 square feet in the shopping center classification. it takes a regional commercial classification to exceed that 75,000 square feet. So you have that requirement essentially to go to regional commercial, as well as to expand the area to accommodate the proposed uses. As I noted in previous staff reports, this site was looked at before along with many others. Commissioner Godert was involved in that process as the commission representative. In 2007, recommended that the City Council consider, if someone were to apply for this site as regional commercial, to consider it as being appropriate. They did look at a lot of sites through town in anticipation that something may not work at Oasis, whether I think at that time it was more of the costs it was going to bear to build the interchange at Oasis and such, but nevertheless the site has been under consideration for quite some time. I also want to let you know that conversion of this site, a portion of the site from residential to commercial, will not affect the housing element. The housing element that we have in place does not identify this site as being needed to satisfy our fair share of housing as established by the state of California. And lastly, that the general plan amendment, while certainly opposed by various commenters, is consistent with various general plan policies, not the least of which is sales tax and employment, and we're having some flickering lights here. I think we know enough about the layout here. For those of you in the audience who have not looked at the specific plan document itself, it's about a 40-50 page document that basically is a mini zoning code. It will be essentially an overlay district. The document itself has its own zoning requirements for heights, setbacks, signage, you name it, just like a typical zoning ordinance does, so that any project that comes into the city, not so much Costco because that is a known, but there are components of the 62,000 square feet of retail that aren't totally locked up yet, so the city will have to make a determination whether what is ultimately proposed is consistent with the specific plan. Also wanted to be clear that there is a process to do that. It's called a zoning compliance process, whereby the Development Services Director has to look at every, I'll call them sub-applications that come in to make sure that the traffic numbers aren't involved above what was considered in the environmental impact report, that the building and parking generally are on the same scheme, doesn't have to totally blow out the entire site plan, those sorts of things. The site plan, of course, as you know, talks about driveway access. We've had a lot of comments that came in regarding concerns that traffic will back up onto either Pacelli or South Bonneview. That would be ameliorated by having to comply with the minimum what's called throat depth requirements. That's the distance essentially between the curb and the first driveway where vehicles can turn, so that they're not backing up, people waiting to turn into a driveway. That's in your conditions of approval or development standards. That the delivery vehicles meet all of our acceptable turning movements. That includes solid waste vehicles. As we noted earlier, the applicant has agreed to provide a greater setback, development setback along the, essentially along the Costco building to match what was shown adjacent to the fuel center. So now you'll have a 25-foot setback between the Caltrans right-of-way and the service driveway. And we also do have a buffer yard, as it's called, along the north property line. That'll have a mix of native and non-native trees and such. And as we indicated in the previous agenda item, once proposed building has been removed to make that buffer even larger. We also talked about signs. Just want to let you know that the pylon sign being proposed by Rich Development is not as large as the Churn Creek Marketplace. Actually, the sign that proposed meets current city standards of a 60-foot height, 400 square feet. There will be a pole sign, some monument signs, and as we indicated the last time, rather than going with the city's sign standards, which looks at street frontage and parcel size and establishes a maximum amount of signage that you have. The specific plan actually sets forth a sign program, says how tall the individual channel letter signs can be on your building faces, what percentage of the frontage of the building can be signage. It's more of what does this sign package look like from the streets and from the interior of the project rather than assigning a maximum number. It's worked well, I think, in some other projects I've seen. Here's the location of the freeway sign up here at the north. That will, by the development standards, that sign which would be illuminated would have to turn off at 10 p.m., as would the wall-facing signs on Costco, which will be externally lit. Here's the location of the monument signs and the pole sign. Just an example of what the architecture and the signage of the Costco building would look like, as well as an example of what the auxiliary or ancillary retail uses signage would look like, well in scale with the building. This is the size of signs that are called for in the development regulations. Lastly, I want to talk a little bit about landscape, because there are a good number of comments that came in that we were taking a lot of trees. Some have suggested there are 4,000 trees. We're not sure that is the methodology to come up with that necessarily meets forestry standards, but nevertheless, there's a lot of trees. There are a lot of trees out there now that are damaged, and we're not sure exactly what the final disposition of them could be. But I wanted to let you know a couple things. Number one, that the trees to be planted with this development, the applicant has agreed to plant 24-inch box trees throughout the development rather than 15-gallon trees. So that's a big commitment right there that we usually don't get right off the bat. So we have larger trees to begin with. There will be approximately 45 trees or so we believe to be saved. Again, that kind of depends on what the condition is in the final grading plan. But I want you to take a look particularly, because this is more pertaining to Costco. Understand that this is a representation, an illustration of tree cover, but I also want you to compare that to the existing Costco. Stark difference between the two. Now, of course, the existing Costco did some upgrades a number of years ago. This is a 2016 aerial photo, but there certainly will be a big difference from a community perspective. Also, if you wanted to look at just the number of trees, counting them, again, when I did this comparison, it was based on an aerial photo. So these are kind of estimates for existing Costco site. But I counted 40 trees in the interior of the parking lot, not along the street frontages. That's 1 per 12 spaces. You're going to get 190 trees with the new Costco, 1 per 4 spaces. The interior landscape, again, we're talking just interior, not the street frontage, about 7,500 square feet, or 12 square feet per space existing Costco, over an acre of interior landscaping, 64 square feet per parking space. So a whole different look than you have at the existing facility, and I think when they're planted right, is going to be a benefit to the community in the end. I'm now quickly through the recommendation. Adopt a resolution recommending City Council find the proposed project consistent with the final EIR and approve the applications that you have before you. With that, I will be happy to answer any questions. And of course, the applicant team, as you know, is on the line as customary in case you have any questions for them, because they do have their development team, their technical experts to answer traffic questions, CEQA questions, noise questions, those sorts of things that staff may not be able to answer.
Okay. I have a question, and a person asked me, he says, does Costco build and own their own facility, or is it a developer that is building it for them and the other tenants? And I didn't know how to answer it. I don't know.
Well, I think Costco's in the better position to answer that. My understanding is they will own the ultimate parcel and the building. And that rich development will be doing the ancillary
Okay.
62,000 square feet.
Great, thank you. Any of my fellow commissioners have any other questions for Kent? Is this where we install the 10 to 7?
This is St. Clair. I don't have a question, but I would like to make a comment that I think that the applicant should be congratulated for their flexibility and their patience as demonstrated up and through this meeting tonight.
Very good. Well done, Wally. Anything else? At this point, I'd like to take a 10-minute...
Nope.
Oh, I got to close the public hearing first. I got to open the public hearing. Okay. At this point, I'd like to open the public hearing. Jeez. And I give the public 3 minutes to respond. If you have anything, please let us know.
Members of the public have approximately 1 minute to submit comment. The 3-minute comment period has ended.
I close the public hearing. Why don't we do 5 minutes instead of 10 minutes, because we didn't get a lot on the last time. So we're going to recess for 5 minutes, and we'll be back in 5. Thank you. Hi, folks. 5 minutes is up. So guess what? What do we get to do next, guys? Are there any questions of our commissioners for Mr. Manuel? Seeing none, would someone like to make a motion?
Mr. Meyer, I'll be happy to make that motion. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I would move that the Planning Commission determine that the project is within the scope of the project defined in the final environmental impact report, and that the City Council, we're recommending that the City Council approve and adopt General Plan Amendment Application GPA 2017-00067. That's the River Crossing Marketplace Specific Plan, and the rezoning application. I'm going to back up. The River Crossing Marketplace Specific Plan, that's SB 2017-00082, and rezoning application RZ 2017-00063, with the added development standard that delivery trucks would be prohibited from utilizing the north driveway between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m.
Is there a second?
Commissioner Benner will second that.
Just a second.
Commissioner Godert, did you also mean to include the general plan amendment application, GPA 2017-00067?
I did. I believe I mentioned that, but yes, the general plan amendment application and the specific plan and rezoning application.
Okay. Is there a second?
I think Leon
Benner
seconded
seconds.
it.
Okay. Would you like to take a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Benner.
Yes.
Commissioner Coughlin.
Yes.
Commissioner Godert.
Aye.
Commissioner Middleton has recused himself. Commissioner Minor.
Aye.
Commissioner St. Clair.
Yes.
And Chairman Meyer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Is there any commission consideration? Seeing none, at this point I would like the public comment. If anyone at the public has a comment, they can do it now.
Yeah, and what we would do is the 3 minutes for public comment, and then we'll
Then you're
proceed.
limited to 3 minutes for the public comment. Do we have any public comments? We had to wait 3 minutes. There you go.
Members of the public have about 1 minute to submit public comment. The 3-minute public comment period has ended.
Okay. 3 minutes? Okay. How much would you like to recess for? 3 minutes. Okay. Okay. Wow. Now I can do public comment? We already did. Now we're at commissioners' comments. Any of my fellow commissioners want to say anything?
Yeah,
I'd like to
Myers, I'd like to commend you on handling the meeting, being this is the first. I think it went quite well. Thank you. Job well done, and to the staff.
Yes, I ditto that. Very good job. And I also wanted to congratulate Bert and Cameron on being reappointed to the Planning Commission.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
I also agree on the congratulatory sentiments to Bert and to staff for putting this together, all the logistical details. Good job.
Commissioner Middleton here, I agree. I think it's a good format moving forward.
Frank?
I'd like to thank Erica. She did all the work on here.
My commissioner comments are, this Costco project was gigantic, and city staff and the community and Costco worked together to mitigate the issues, and I think that this project is absolutely wonderful, and I think the community is going to be better for it, and I want to thank my fellow commissioners for all their diligence, and thank you. Well, it looks to me like we're about done. I think this is adjournment time. See ya.